Our body's ready to relax. So let's get ourselves started with a huge breath, filling up that belly. And that nice release. Just let it go. Good. All those cares, all those worries, no more. Sometimes it takes a couple of those to allow the body to adjust to this state of calm, of presence. So as we're starting off connecting with our intention for today, the idea that we're going to place in the back of the mind is the thought of a box, a frame, just those 90-degree angles wanting to work together. And in our physical body, this frame is our hips and our shoulders. When one of those areas becomes off center, off balance, it creates a misalignment in the spine that makes it so that the others are also misaligned. So if the hips are tilted, the spine has a curvature and you'll see the shoulders tilted also. And so our hope, our goal, our purpose in our class today is to work a little bit on both of those areas, working a little bit on shoulders, a little bit on hips, to help bring that whole frame into better alignment. When things are aligned in a building, for instance, the structure is able to bear a lot more weight and it's able to withstand a lot more of the wind and pressure that comes just from existing. And metaphorically in our life, there's also those winds and pressures that come at us. So metaphorically, by helping our spine and that frame to be more aligned, things just connect and they work a little bit better. The breath is able to flow more easily. It leads to a place that's much less painful in the body. And so that's our theme, our idea for our class today. And so with that, to get us started, let's begin to gently hug the knees into the chest. With a hand on each knee, there be some gentle rocking for the low back and the hips. So mats are out there, and then you'll want a bolster and a blanket in here. You can choose, you can either set up over there or over here, whichever's fine. Right, so give this low back just a couple of easy breaths, gentle rocking. You need it. Good. And what I'd like us to do to get started from this position here is a first nice little hip stretch. So we're taking our right ankle, we're placing our right ankle on the left side. This is the figure 4 stretch. So when that's in place, yep, you got it. Thread hands around that left side. Give it a nice hug. Sometimes as I'm in this shape, my body needs a little bit of movement, kind of gentle rocking left and right. And other days I just need to hold it in stillness. So both are good qualities. Both will affect that alignment of the hips to shoulders. So whatever the body intuitively is guiding you into, that's the one to take. Easy breaths flowing, deep inhales. Nice exhales, helping these muscles release out of that right hip. Another huge inhale. Nice exhale. And then from here, allow arms to spread open on the ground, left and right. Leave this crossed unit of the legs as it is, tilted all the way over to left. So you'll start to feel this waking up the outer hip. You'll feel it stretching perhaps into thigh, into spine, maybe even up the back into the shoulders. So just give this some time, some space, some breath. One of our keys to restorative yoga is going nice and slow so that these structures have time. Going back to building up a building, if you lay, say, cement, you need to give it time to set. If you immediately rush into the next step, things don't hold the way that you're wanting them to. Patience, and sometimes that patience is a theme that shows up for us in our lives as well. Like, how much am I trying to just rush through, trying to get the results without realizing there's a process that needs to happen, slowly unfolding. Sometimes I'll set a little intention for a stretch that I'll just repeat with every breath that I take. In this case, perhaps that intention is something like, my body's coming into greater alignment. My body's coming into greater alignment. Feel it happen. We'll take one more huge inhale here. Really good exhale. And then gently, gently we'll unwind the body. When we bring the hips back down, uncross the legs and bring the knees back into chest. Reset there in the middle with a couple of more easy rocking moments. Just easy left, easy right. For me, these rocking moments help the spine, the sacrum. They help all of these areas to learn how to cooperate with one another just a little bit better, stay in their spot just a little bit better. That must be the fun job of chiropractors, to constantly try to reset those bones. Okay, so when you feel ready, figure 4 second side. This is left ankle to right thigh. If the hug is happening today, the hug is around right thigh or right shin. Some days it doesn't happen, and that's okay. You've got options such as that right foot resting on the floor and then just pushing into the left knee, helping the hip open that way. My big thing is trying not to add tension to other areas of the body by trying to force a stretch to happen. We're here just a little bit longer. Really experience the breath into belly space. From here, the arms begin to spread back open, left and right. The unit that the legs are in tilts over to right this time. What if we approached more things, more activities in our daily life with this kind of patience? Just trusting in the process. Conscious with the breath still, a few more cycles here. After this next exhale, we start to take the knees back up, hips to ground. As the legs uncross, let's do a few windshield wipers this time. So feet go to floor about as wide as mat. Let the knees both drop over to right. And knees drop over to left. Nice and easy. Feel that space. So when it feels like things have kind of loosened up the tightness, let both knees fall over to one side in a fetal position, and then you'll use your hands to help gently press you up. We're going to come straight to kneeling today, so we can use the blanket at this first size, because we'll be playing with different folding placements of the blanket as we go through class. So just here, right under our knees to get started, there'll be that nice padding just to make sure knees stay comfortable. And from here, let's start to move gently into shoulders. So we're lowering our left elbow down, but swiveling that left hand in. And then our right arm gets a chance to extend really long forward. So this is a half puppy pose. Hips stay over the knees. And that right arm is getting that nice stretch all the way forward. Note that the spine can be straight, but in puppy, I love to let the belly drip down a little bit if that's feeling okay for the low back to be. Take 2 more breaths for this right arm. After that second breath, this right hand swivels in, the left hand begins to slide out. One more huge inhale. Exhale. We start to prop our way back up. Let the hips wag, nice and soft, left, right. Just easing any tightness out of the spine. This next shoulder stretch can be done one of 2 ways, depending on what feels best for spine and knees. So option 1 would be to take the right arm and thread it under that left armpit space. So in this case, the hips stay over knees. Option 2 is to set the bolster in front of you. You'll have the left hand just resting alongside the bolster, and then that right arm threads under while you can rest your head down. So you can choose which option feels best for the body at this point. You're in option 2 with the bolster. Feel free to scoot the hips as far back toward child pose as feels good. Start to unwind, setting up for second side. This will be the right arm being the one to rest forward, and it's the left shoulder that threads through. You allow breath to go nice and slow. Take 2 more cycles here. As the second breath leaves the body, we're back up at a nice neutral kneeling spot. Again, movements for the spine. Maybe it's left and right, or maybe we're ready to start introducing up and down cat-cow movements. Beautiful. So from here, the bolster scoots off our mat to the left side. I like to have it at this mat that the direction that parallels how the mat is going, so the long direction forward. Place your left knee onto the bolster. And then you're gonna slide that left knee as far to the left as feels good. Lowering to elbows is usually where I feel really comfortable. This is a frog pose variation. Give this spot a couple of breaths. One more huge inhale. And exhale, back up to hands. Slide the bolster back in. Before we switch sides, we take another shoulder stretch. Bolster slides up onto the mat in front of us. And we lay our left side ribs onto the bolster. That left arm sliding long or in any way that feels comfortable to support the neck. The right arm gets a chance to reach up and over. You're trying to take almost like a rainbow arch with that right hand. So the fingers are trying to touch the floor. And then still in contact with the floor, slide the fingers as far forward as they can. We'll gradually shift this stretch. Those right fingers, I want you to trace them backwards a couple of inches. Your chest rolls open just a little bit more towards the ceiling. Good. Now circle those right fingers all the way to the space in front of your chest on the ground. Your left arm that's underneath you, free it out. So this helps to twist the sternum a little bit more to the ground. Knees stacked is the more gentle variation here. Top knee tracing backwards any amount. Makes it a little bit deeper in that spinal twist, so you get to choose. If that top knee slid back at all, slide it back into stack. We'll take one more stretch before we switch sides. And this is a left shoulder stretch. So that left arm that's kind of behind us either slides out to a 90-degree angle or slides all the way out to straight. It just depends on what angle and what degree feels good for the shoulder. You don't want to hurt anything. By us being on our side body already, it will be already just naturally intense to be here. So don't feel like you have to push anything too far. If it's intense just to be kind of in the general shape, let the angle of the arm be a little bit higher up, as in toward mirror direction. So adjust in the ways that feels good for the shoulder, the pec area opening, all those goodies, but nothing too much. I'll give the shoulder stretch just a couple more breaths. Take about 3 more good cycles. After all 3, we're unwinding ourselves, coming to a kneeling spot that's comfortable, maybe low kneeling, sitting on the feet, or maybe high kneeling if that's a little bit too intense. And that left arm that we were just stretching comes across the front of the body. We hug it in and drop the right ear to the right. A gentle release, let the shoulders roll out a couple of times. And then slide bolster off the right side. Right knee onto it. Slide open to right, any amount that feels good, doesn't have to be super far. Dropping the elbows usually is where I like to be. Sure we're not tensing up the neck too much. I like to let the neck kind of just be loose. I could shake it left and right if I wanted to. More good inhale. Exhale. Start to come up to the hands. Take our way back onto mat. Bolster comes in front of us. And then this time we lay our right side ribs onto bolster. The head is set up comfortably propped, whatever feels nice. And this time it's left arm that stretches up and over, kind of like a nice lateral stretch. Nice and easy. Fingertips can be in contact with floor with that left hand. With fingertips in contact with floor, how far forward can you reach that shoulder? Contact with floor. The left fingertips slide back just a couple of inches. This rolls our chest more open to sky. Just a little bit of opening for that heart space. And as we roll back to stacked, that left hand comes to plant in the space in front of chest. Bring out the right shoulder to that space behind you. We're in a nice twist. If top knee wants to trace backwards at all, you're welcome to. Knees back to stacked if they slid back. Now it's this right shoulder that's trying to work its way into a stretch. It can be a 90-degree angle. It can be a straight arm. You don't want to hurt the shoulder. Sometimes various things have happened to this side. So if you need to make it easier, slide the angle higher up, as in pointing closer to mirror. More parallel to shoulder behind you is going to be that deeper spot. So bent elbow, straight elbow, it's all up to you to play with. Helping you find the shoulder stretch that's just right today. Give it 3 more breaths on this half. Gently pressing our way back up and out when you finish that third breath. Once we're up, the right arm comes across the body, hug it in. And tilt the head to the left. Another deep inhale. Exhale. Gentle release, a couple of shoulder shrugs. Good. We'll slide the bolster now long ways behind us. And then take this blanket out from underneath us. The blanket is gonna open up, so it's a really long rectangle now. Kind of this still half fold, so this is still a good size, good. And then from there, it's gonna be rolled up in the way that keeps it long. So all the fringe should be kind of rolled up together. Yeah, I think we all got it. Okay, so set that to the side for just a moment. As we face forward, bolsters behind us, feet come into cobbler's pose shape. And then what we're gonna do with this blanket is place the middle of it over the feet, and then the two ends of it tuck in this spot just to each side. So it kind of keeps the thighs gently propped up. And so from there, we're gonna head into a cobbler's pose laying onto our bolster. So hands go onto the ground behind you, lower one elbow and then the other. And then eventually we're laying all the way comfortably on bolster. So after all the shoulder opening we've done, maybe your shoulders just want to rest comfortably at your sides, making this more of a meditative place, and that's beautiful. If the shoulders would like to go into a chest neck opener, take them to 90-degree angles, open off to each side. Depending on which bolster you have, the elbows may not touch ground, and I actually really like it when that happens because gravity helps those pecs to just release the more I can give permission for the muscles to relax. If at any point it gets a little intense, you can always rest, dropping hands back to floor. This is just an easy way to add in that pec stretch, stretching the front of the chest. This is beautiful because it reverses a lot of the hunched forward positions we tend to take in life. So think back to that box, that structure that we talked about. A lot of what I mentioned at the very beginning was the tilt up or down onto the sides, but that rounding forward of the shoulders is more of the front to back plane. And so that also affects how the hips and the rest of the spine are. It can absolutely lead to weakening of the core muscles. Eventually, just that misalignment of all the discs in the spine. So feel this reversing any of that hunching that we've done. Eventually, if the elbows need to just rest, let them drop easily back to floor, giving our body a couple of bonus breaths just to relax in the shape. Starting to prep to rise up, the elbows start to work their way under where the shoulders are. Head can rise. Once you've got the elbows underneath you, it's easy to get one hand planted and then the other to gently prop our way up. And from here, As long as this feels decently stable to sit, we're going to take 3 times, just kind of like a drinking bird, dip forward. And then just grabbing onto shins, arch the heart up and back. 2 more, dip forward. Arch back. And 1 more. Good, as we're back up, set this blanket off to the side. Slide the legs into easy cross leg. Your right hand is going to trace the angle of this left thigh. So slide it to that left thigh direction on the floor. This gets us into some nice spine muscles. Opening up some really beautiful areas of the back. Easy slide back up, and we'll switch. Left hand sliding out the right thigh direction. And rising back up. Give our legs a chance to go into an easy little hamstring stretch. Both legs open out. If sitting here is difficult already, sit on bolster. If bolster would be useful in front of us, you can choose maybe low height, medium height, or sometimes it's nice to make it like a fort where you prop your forehead up against it and just lean forward. Either way, remember what we talked about with the hunching forward. That's not exactly the quality we're looking for, so try to find at least a little bit of length, longness in that spine, whatever angle we're exploring today. If you're here for a little while and you realize, okay, this angle is a little too easy, readjust, find the next angle. Same with if you're there and it's way too intense, switch it up. Listen to the body constantly. Feeling the spine rounding a lot. Maybe take the next breath to remind the low back to straighten just a little bit more. Here we're enjoying about 3 more good breaths. How slow can we make them? rising up. The bolster will swivel under the knees. We'll slide the knees up onto them. We've got one last pose together before we head eventually toward our Shavasana shape. So I'm going to give you two options. Leaving this roll in the middle of the mat, so it's kind of like the middle of the spine, will allow us another opportunity to allow that the shoulders to roll open, the chest to open up a little bit. So that's option one. Bolster swiveling the other way, and then laying back where the armpits are just right where that bolster is, the rolled up blanket, will allow the heart space itself to open up just a little bit more. So it's either the quality of whole spine lifting or just that heart space lifting. So you get to choose. We're going to take just a couple more minutes for this shape. And maybe think of a little mantra for yourself as you're breathing deep and full that helps you to come energetically into greater alignment. Think of perhaps the energy of why our hips and shoulders have been working themselves into all sorts of chaotic structures. And is there anything, any positive, present, tense statements that can remind us not only of the empowerment that we have to create positive change for our body, but also just reminding us on where we can put energy to help just focus that realignment. So for instance, sometimes the hips, I feel naturally like I've kind of stuffed myself into a box creatively. I haven't let myself have enough time for creative expression. So maybe my statement would be something like, I am a creative creature, or my life is my playground, or something like that just reminds you, oh yeah, I do have power. I can open myself up to these types of energies. Perhaps the energy that's stuck in the shoulders is the energy of putting too much of the weight of the world on that area. And so maybe a mantra like, the world will flow without me needing to hold everything up. I'm able to do my part, and I don't have to do everybody's part. Things like that just remind you, oh yeah, that's where I can bring my balance. Give yourself just a couple more breaths, either to think of this mantra or to repeat this mantra a couple of more times, whatever it is that feels intuitive for you. We're heading into our final Shavasana shape for our class here. So if this is the shape that your Shavasana will be the very best option for your body, take it. Just enjoy it. If there's any adjustments you prefer, maybe returning back to the Cobbler's pose with the blanket wrapped around the legs, or maybe removing the blanket from under your back and just laying flat, or whatever will feel comfortable and good for your body. Feel free to make any little adjustments. No rush to get there, but when you're comfortable, realize that all we have to do right now, the next few minutes, is just breathe. You can repeat mantras if you like, but none of that's required. Learning to just be present is that kind of patient return to allow the structure to really solidify at its rate. Whatever feels good, just breathe, just relax. Nice inhales and exhales. Guide us into these last couple of minutes together. Stretching out like we're waking up first thing in the morning. Perhaps taking a nice fetal position off to one side. Enjoying a few bonus breaths here. Maybe a good 3 more cycles until sooner or later you feel ready to rise. No rush, just enjoying yourself like a natural unfolding of the seasons, blossoming of the flowers. As we arise, let's join hands together in front of heart. We return back to this simple intention we started with. That idea of shoulders and hips coming into this great alignment. So in this moment, feel your spine stacked, shoulders right over hips, the head lengthening right out of that structure. And as this structure of our physical body is much more aligned, we imagine some of those deeper energetic qualities are much more aligned as well. So with this to help lead us on, let's wrap up the time we got to share together today with the sound of Om. Deep inhale now. May we be filled with light and happiness and peace. Namaste.